Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving into what I think is one of the most intense, high-stakes chapters in the entire book of Luke. We're talking about Luke chapter 20. It's just one rapid-fire confrontation after another where Jesus' authority gets put on trial. But here's the twist. He turns right around and challenges the very heart of what it means to just perform religion. You ready? Let's get into it.
Okay, so to really get the picture here, you have to understand what just happened. Jesus has just ridden into Jerusalem, welcomed like a king, right? And then he walks straight into the temple and starts flipping tables. Literally. He throws out the money changers. I mean, this was a massive, public, in-your-face challenge to the entire religious system. So you can just imagine, the air is electric with tension. And his enemies? Oh, they are absolutely ready to make their move. And they don't waste any time. The big guns? We're talking the chief priests, the scribes, the elders, basically the whole ruling council. They come up to Jesus while he's teaching, and they've cooked up a question they are sure is going to be the one to finally trap him. And listen to this question. Tell us, by what authority doest thou these things? Or who is he that gave thee this authority? This is just a brilliant trap, you have to admit. Think about it. If Jesus says, my authority is from God, bam, they'll get him for blasphemy. But if he says, oh, it's my own authority, they'll just laugh him off as some powerless fraud. See, they think they've got him completely boxed in. But Jesus, wow, with just incredible wisdom, he doesn't just sidestep their trap, he sets an even better one for them. He looks right back at them and asks, okay, I'll answer you, but first you answer me. The baptism of John, was it from heaven or was it just something men made up? Just like that, he flips the whole thing right back on them. It's amazing. And now, they're the ones in a bind. It's the perfect checkmate. See, they can't say John's authority came from God, because if they did, the next question would be, well, why didn't you believe him? They'd look like fools because they rejected John. But they also can't say it was just for men, because the people, the crowds, loved John. They saw him as a true prophet. If the leaders dismissed him, they might have a riot on their hands. So what do? They're totally paralyzed. They have to mumble, we can't tell. And in that moment, they expose themselves for the political schemers they really are. So, having completely silenced his critics, Jesus doesn't stop. He turns his attention to the crowd and starts telling a story, a parable. But listen, this is no ordinary campfire story. This is a pointed, devastating takedown of the very leaders who just tried to trap him. Okay, so this parable is a direct allegory, and it's super clear what each part represents. The owner, that's God the Father. The vineyard he plants, that's the nation of Israel. And the husbandmen, the caretakers he puts in charge, well, that's the religious leaders. Over and over, the owner sends his servants, the prophets, to check on the vineyard, but they get beaten, mistreated, and sent away empty-handed. So finally, what does the owner do? He sends his one and only beloved son, which is, of course, Jesus himself. And this leads to the chilling climax of the story. Jesus says the owner shall come and destroy these husbandmen and shall give the vineyard to others. Whoa! I mean, can you imagine hearing that? He's straight up predicting that judgment is coming for these corrupt leaders and that the management of God's vineyard, his people, is going to be given to someone else. This is a huge prophecy that the gospel is about to expand way beyond just them, out to the Gentiles. And he's not done. He then pulls out this quote from the Psalms, "The stone which the builders rejected, the same is become the head of the corner." He's identifying himself as that cornerstone. Think about what that means. The builders, the so-called experts, the religious leaders, they're casting him aside like a useless piece of rock. But what they don't realize is that he is the most important stone in the entire structure. He's the very foundation of God's entire plan for salvation. It's a powerful statement. You either build your life on him or that very stone will crush you. So at this point, the leaders are absolutely fuming, but they're still afraid of the crowds. So they switch tactics. They send in some spies, pretending to be sincere followers to try and catch him with a couple more traps. This time, one is political, and the other one is theological. They're hoping to get him on some kind of technicality. All right, first up is the political trap. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar? Man, this is another clever one. It's a total lose-lose situation, or so they think. If he says yes, pay the tax, he'll look like a Roman sympathizer, and the people will turn on him. But if he says no, don't pay it, well, that's treason. The Roman guard standing right there could arrest him on the spot. It really looks like there's no good answer here. But Jesus' answer is just profound. He asks for a coin, he holds it up and asks, whose picture is on this? They say, Caesar's. And then comes the famous line,
Render therefore unto Caesar the things which be Caesar's, and unto God the things which be God's. It's so much deeper than just a clever comeback. What he's saying is, sure, Caesar's image is stamped on this little piece of metal, so give it back to him. That's fine. But then there's the unspoken question. Whose image is stamped on you? We are made in the image of God. So yeah, we have earthly duties, but our ultimate allegiance, our very lives, our hearts, our worship, that belongs to God alone.
Okay, so the political trap failed. Now comes the theological one. And a new group steps up, the Sadducees. Now, you gotta know, these guys were a powerful party, but they didn't believe in the resurrection at all. They thought it was nonsense. So they come to Jesus with this absolutely ridiculous hypothetical scenario about a woman who marries 7 brothers in a row and they all die. Their question is, so in the resurrection, whose wife will she be? They're not looking for an answer. They're trying to make the whole idea of resurrection look absurd.
And Jesus' response is just magnificent. First, he tells them flat out, you're wrong because you don't know the scriptures or the power of God. Then, he proves the resurrection using the Torah, the only part of the Old Testament the Sadducees even accepted. He reminds them of the story of the burning bush, where God says to Moses, I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. Notice the verb, I am, present tense. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had been dead for centuries, but God speaks of them as if they're still alive. Why? Because as Jesus says, he is not a God of the dead, but of the living, for all live unto him. It's a mic drop moment, proving that these patriarchs are still alive in God's presence.
Okay, so at this point, Jesus has just systematically, brilliantly, and publicly dismantled every single trap they've laid for him. He's silenced every one of his critics, so now the tables turn. Jesus goes on the offensive, and he poses a question that absolutely stumps them. He asks them a question about the Messiah. See, everybody knew the prophecy. The Messiah was supposed to be the son of David, his descendant. But then Jesus quotes Psalm 110, where King David himself, writing under the inspiration of the Spirit, calls the Messiah, my Lord. So here's the riddle. David therefore calleth him Lord. How is he then his son? How can the Messiah be both David's son, his junior descendant, and at the same time be David's Lord, his superior?
And crickets. The scribes are completely speechless. They have no answer. Because the only possible solution is something they just can't or won't accept. It's one of the most foundational truths of our faith, the dual nature of Christ. So how can the Messiah be both? It's simple, really. As David's son, he is fully human, born into that physical bloodline, the rightful heir to the throne. But as David's Lord, he is fully divine. He's the eternal Son of God who existed long before David. Jesus is both, at the same time. He perfectly fulfills every single aspect of the prophecy. So the chapter wraps up with Jesus, in front of this whole crowd, issuing one last, very stern warning. He's done defending his own authority. Now he's going to expose their complete lack of authenticity.
And he does not mince words. He calls out the scribes directly. He tells the people, beware of the scribes, which devour widows' houses, and for a show make long prayers. The same shall receive greater damnation. He's warning them about people who love the look of being religious, but behind the scenes they're using that status to exploit the most vulnerable people in society, all while putting on a big show with their public prayers. You see, for them, it was all a performance. It was about getting that public honor, getting the best seats in the synagogue, being called by fancy titles. It was all an outward show. But Jesus is pulling back the curtain, showing everyone that behind all that religious pageantry, their hearts were just full of pride and greed. And really, this is the crucial point of the whole chapter. Jesus is drawing a big, bold line in the sand. On one side, you have a hollow, external religious performance, and on the other, you have genuine, authentic, from the heart faith. God is not interested in the show. He's looking at the heart. So this all brings us to a really important question for ourselves, doesn't it? After seeing Jesus establish his authority over and over again, we have to ask, who has the ultimate authority in my life? Is it Jesus, the cornerstone that the builders rejected, or are we letting something else, our careers, our reputation, our own ideas, have the final say? And that leads to the final and maybe most challenging question this chapter leaves us with. In light of Jesus' warning about the scribes, we have to look in the mirror and ask, is my faith a performance or is it real? Is it just an outward show I put on for other people, or is it a genuine, authentic, heart-deep reality that's actually changing me from the inside out?